Thank you all for joining us. We are so happy to be here. It's the first training of many, and we appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to join us. Just a little bit about Kaylee and I, and then we'll kind of do some housekeeping and get into the slides. My name's Dottie Abston. I'm the HR support and payroll manager. I just celebrated 8 years. They went by so fast at Vigor, and I'm excited to be here. I've been in payroll my entire career and worked at different industries, but I will say that Vigor is definitely the most exciting. So this will be a venture for all of us, and I think everybody will look forward to seeing the new features that are in the system. So Kaylee, if you want to introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yes, thanks, Dottie. I'm Kaylee Hayter. So I've been with Vigor 6 years now. I am the payroll system supervisor, worked alongside Dottie, Becky, who was just talking a little bit ago. And yeah, really looking forward to showing you guys the system. It's been a long process, as we've said, but it's definitely good now and a lot of cool features coming up.
Great, thanks, Kaylee. So a couple of things before we kick off on the slides, and Kaylee's going to be my Vanna, so thank you for doing that, Kaylee. So we might have just a couple little delays here and there, but she's pretty good at reading minds, so I think it'll go really smooth. But just to let you know, these slides were put together with the idea that they will be your future reference material. So we're not going to read them to you today, except maybe a few, and go through them rather quickly so we save time for questions as we go along. Let this be an interactive session. Please feel free to ask some questions. We'll only prod people along if we're, thinking we're going to run out of time to go through the materials. And just want to let you know that these slides are available. You can get them easiest from the Voyager link for all of us that are salaried corporate hourly, and they're under the corporate support and the human resources area. You'll see a couple of boxes that'll prompt you through to get to the training slides. Just keep looking for Vigor at Work and Training and Education Hub. So the other housekeeping thing that I will just say, since this is the first session, most of you know we call our system currently today Kronos, and that's usually how we refer to it. Ultimate Software and Kronos merged a little bit ago, so you will see that on some of the screens there is the acronym UKG, and that stands for Ultimate Kronos Group. And so that's how they've tagged themselves, so it might be a little confusing, but we're calling it Vigor at Work, and thanks to those who voted, because I know that that was how the name was chosen. So I'll get along, but just kind of wanted you to know what UKG stood for, since you'll see that on some of the slides going forward. So Kaylee, I'll let you kick us off. So today we're going to talk about Vigor at Work, just a general overview. I will go through employee self-service, and then the best for last, Kaylee's going to go through the time entry and a few other HR features. And I think of the Vigor at Work similar to Vigor One. It's companies that have historically been blended together with diverse histories, culture, business systems. And our evolution is really just focusing now on people systems. So it's great to have this opportunity. The Kronos system today, for those of you that are fairly new with Vigor, has been in place since 2013. So this is much appreciated and well needed, a new revived system for us all to work on. So some of the people processes that are part of our system, as you guys know, it starts with recruiting and hiring. So there won't be Clear Company in the future. This will be the system of record for all things human resources, where we will manage, compensate, and retain employees, have training, different documents available. So it's definitely a progression and something that I think you guys will enjoy. So some of the exciting part is it's not just a website, and Paul mentioned this is in the cloud. So that will come with some new features as well, just with that. You can access it from your personal PC at home as well. I am so excited that finally our production employees who don't have email addresses or VPN with Vigor, they will too be able to access their information from home on the PC, and it's also available on mobile. So very exciting. It will be used by everyone, and as we know, similar to Kronos today, there's everyday use to assigning time to projects, updating time. We really want to remind everybody that the time system really should be used daily. And the reason why is because that kicks into management reporting and decisions on every single day. So we know how many hours are being worked on different projects. So it's great view to our business. It's just not, one-sided. It's really encompassing many different facets of our organization. The corporate hourly will punch in and out every day, and time will be assigned to projects as mentioned. And then, as you know, there will be monthly certifications to be renewed, quarterly training checks, and performance reviews annually. So it'll be a great system to include benefits open enrollment in July. So let's talk about navigating through the system. There's really two different views that you'll see, but again, it's all part of Vigor org. There's the timekeeping module, which you will see has the green background, and that's where you'll find the time cards, the time off requests that we've been hinting about, and elements related to projects, people, daily work. It's going to be fun and exciting. You'll see a few more slides ahead. We're going to talk about you literally get alerts right into your system and on your tile. Then on the right side is a little view of the human resources module. It's called HCM in a couple little spots on the system, but know that that's the human resource side where we collect information about human resources, the benefits, your records, and managers will have information about their team now, which is more readily available than the current manager homepage. On every screen, you're going to see the house icon to help get you back to home. And then there is the menu, which is the 3 horizontal bars there. We will, if you're doing troubleshooting with us or IT, we'll talk a lot about the main menu prompt, and that's the icon there with the 3 horizontal bars. And here's just the default tiles that you might see where you can get to your time card, the human resource dashboard, managing schedules, the personal time offs, notifications and schedule, and the corporate hourlies will also have availability to have a punch in and punch out tile on their system. Oh, and we've got some graphics going. Tiles can be arranged, replaced, and added to a page. So you can customize this for yourself. And I didn't have a lot of time or I would have put one in there. You'll even see that in this new system, you can do graphics. So it'll be nice to have some visuals, not just drop-down menus and different tiles that might be boring. So it'll be interesting to see what people come up with, and please share any good finds that you have. I'm sure your coworkers will want to know. And it's easy. Here's just some information on how you would go about rearranging your tiles. It shows you on the right side the gear box, and that you would then bring down tiles, and then right there you can only see 6 options, but when you scroll down there's several more options that you can choose for what you want to see, because everybody comes at this from a different direction, and we want to be able to have you customize it so that you get the most out of the system. It's yours. And then from the timekeeping homepage, you can get into the human resource module because we want single sign-on. And so you'll see from this drop-down menu, you can click on the HCM dashboard. Or from your tile, there is also a link as shown on the right side with those arrows. The human resources module, I want to shout out to Paul Dembowski. He's the one who put this together for us, and it has really come a long way. I wish you guys had seen the evolution just in this itself. It's very exciting to be customized for Vigor, so we can see exactly where we need to go. So this is where we go, not only for yourself, but as managers, and we'll talk a little bit more about employee self-service, where we'll encourage you to use that, just like your employees, to make changes. So similar, we're showing the main menu box, how you would return to get to work at home. It also lets you know you're the one signed in case you didn't remember. And I love how the to-do list actually says you're caught up. That'll be a great thing if we all have all our notifications taken care of. So that would mean we've approved the time off requests or denied time off requests coming from our staff. There's no exceptions on the time side. Nobody's missing punches. It'll be very exciting. And the box in the middle is just the key that I was talking about that Paul created for all of us. There's quick icons where you click and get to different places, whether it be your profile or my employee information to update. And we'll see that on the next slides as well. And I say we can just kind of skip through this one. It just shows you where to get to alerts, and we'll kick off into employee self-service. So employee self-service, again, this is the most exciting to me because it's finally allowing our production employees to also have access to the system. As you remember me saying before, people can get to it from home via PC, iPad, their phone. So it will be very exciting. Here's where you would go in this first tab to do your My Information. And as many of you might know, some of collecting of the data is very difficult at Vigor. We have employees that are getting rehired, forgot that when they left, maybe they've had an address change since, if they've returned from layoff. And so it's going to be very nice that it'll be front and center and in the same system, and employees will be able to go in and change their address, their phone or email, and their contact information. And here's an example of what it looks like once you click on the change to go make an address change. It also has a reminder that if you are changing states, that there's taxation, to remember to do the W-4 equivalent at the state level as appropriate, which for us is Oregon and Hawaii. And then once you get into the address change itself, it'll allow you to put in your new address and submit that change. It will go through the system and really be great. There'll be less data entry, no one having to decipher what someone wrote really quickly, and employees will own their own information, which will be great for all.
Quick question, does it accommodate zip +4 zip codes or just
Yes,
the
it will be +4, and that recommend, I didn't go in and try it, but that's what we're thinking the recommend will do, is that it will attach the 4 digits at the end.
That was going to be my question, so I'm glad it was asked.
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No. We said, please let this be interactive. Makes it more fun for us. More questions, the merrier. So my contacts update is, I feel, a little bit more expanded from current. I feel like a lot of times people will think about updating their address, but they will forget about the contacts that they may have done 5, 6, 7 years ago. So this gives everybody an opportunity. And on the next one, you'll see that circled on the right, you can put in your emergency contact, your dependents, and your beneficiaries. So very good. There's also a reminder that the same person can obviously be multiple people on your account. But I think that will be great. It's always good to make sure those emergency contacts are updated because we care so much about safety of Vigor. So this will be very nice. And then for phone and email change, I can't tell you, I love to be able to call employees when there's an issue. Sometimes when they leave voicemails, we can't hear all the digits of the numbers. So this will give employees the ability to make sure their phone numbers are updated so that whether it be the supervisor that needs to get a hold of the employee, HR, or payroll, we have recent phone numbers. So that will be nice. And emails will be in here as well. I think as we continue to evolve, there'll be even more reasons to have emails, just so we can all share information rapidly.
I've got a quick question here. I assume, will all of our the information that's currently in the system get ported over into this? This is just if we want to make any changes?
Correct.
Okay.
The only thing that will be a little delayed would be beneficiaries are not currently in the system. So that will be something that will be discussed, long-term plan for that. But the other information is migrating over. Yes, great question.
Okay. Thank you.
Dottie, that's a good point in terms of the beneficiaries, as it's all beneficiaries for your life insurance are currently on pieces of paper in file cabinets. So unless we wanted to manually key in beneficiaries for every single employee into the system, which may be an option, but if employees could actually add their beneficiaries into the system, that would be even more incredible because they would be up to date. We do run into issues when something happens and we don't have a beneficiary on file. It's quite a struggle. So that is something that I hope people will think is an advantage of the system, is being able to update their beneficiaries real time instead of filling out pieces of paper.
Thanks, Talara. So here we go. Great segue into Talara's area. So my benefits, there'll be a life change event so that if there is a life change, that will be also an employee self-service, whether that be, and you can see from the drop down list, birth adoption, a company transfer, unfortunately, death of a spouse or dependent, divorce or legal separation, and then change to the healthcare coverage for any other reason. And then there's additional screens that will walk you through that we won't go through today, but there are these additional screens that would walk you through how to make and initiate those changes on your behalf within the system. The other icon that we are highlighting in here is to go to My Pay. I know all the salaried exempt corporate hourly currently have this access within the new system or in the old system, but in the new system, now also the production workers will have the ability to look online. And we absolutely are thrilled about this, to be able to have employees look at their paychecks, and we will encourage them to look at them before payday. That way, if they have any questions, they have the opportunity to ask us. So there's less stress. They can go look at them Thursday night when they go home and contact us and just make it a more pleasant experience so you're not distracted at work if there are payroll questions. So it will be nice. And then, you know, again, they're not relying on a hard copy piece of paper, and there's some that would think that that's a little bit more confidential as well. So we look forward to this evolution of how people will look at pay statements around the business.
And I was just going to add one comment, Dottie, with it. The one thing that is different for salary corporate hourly is you will be able to do this from home as well. So you won't have to be on your work computer. So that will be a big benefit as well, especially if you're trying to apply for a house or a loan or something and need those pay statements on the weekend. So just wanted to add that in too.
Very good. And here is just an example of showing a historic view and the new payroll check, which doesn't look much different. I think everybody will have an easy time transitioning, but we are partnering with Paul and doing a check insert. So for the first time that people get their new check, there will be explanations with that check to help guide them through. And then on here, it has your tax information. So similar to W-4s, I know some people use employee self-service today on the salaried exempt corporate hourly world, but I think this one is more intuitive. And this will be the way to change W-4s. You don't have to go down to Human Resources Department or go to the IRS website. You can actually use this employee self-service system to make changes, whether it be at federal or state level, to your tax withholding. And then this is just a lot more information showing you how to make that change. But again, I feel like it's very intuitive. The W-4 comes up and already has pre-populated your address, your social security number, and different things. You won't be needing to retype that. So that's also going to save everyone time. And then just like today, the W-2s are out there. But again, the production people have not had access to them with the exception of their hard copy forms. And they will be accessible. We, at this point, even though we've asked, we do believe the final answer will be that only the 2022 W-2s forward will be on the system. So the other ones that will be historic, we will be working with IT, how long those will be available through that system. And no matter what, we will have them accessible and can get them for you from the payroll side if you need something historically. And we'll do announcements as we know different timelines and before employee self-service in the current environment expires. Direct deposit, of course, is here. And again, similar to us, we have it in the current system, but I think it's a little more robust. And I am super excited that we actually are going to fall more under the normal process for direct deposits with the new system. Currently, if you have more than one check, for example, if you get the incentive pay, we'll just talk about the incentive pay real quick. If you get incentive pay, then when you get that check, you have the same division that you have on your regular check. Or if you have $100 going to your savings, $50 to each of your children, then they get that bonus as well. Well, now the system will change and only net remainders will be on checks. Same goes for production employees. If they have some type of additional pay or shortage pay, that check doesn't get divvied out into those places it may not want to be allocated to, and instead will go to the main account, which we deem their net remainder account. And this is just a screen showing how that is done, and it's very similar to today. So without further ado, I will turn it on over to Kaylee.
Great. Thanks, Dottie. Yeah, so I'm going to take us through time entry. Since we're all corporate and in the system in today's world in 6.3, it's not going to look totally new and totally crazy here. Everything is going to look pretty similar, just with a different little twist to it. So please stop me anytime as I'm going through if you have questions. These next two slides, there's a lot going on this slide, and same with the next one. The thought is kind of that this might be helpful to print out and kind of keep at your workstation as a reference guide when you're looking at things, just to kind of see where things are at. If we take a quick look here, I'm going to point out a couple things. This is a corporate hourly time card. The easiest way I know by just looking at it is the days of the week are vertical. You can see here down the side. So that is an hourly time card. So that's the quickest way I know to look at it. You might notice here that we have some columns in blue and then some columns in purple. It's all the time card, but in UKG's setup, they consider all of these blue columns to be the time card. That is when you're punching in, punching out, all of your hours worked. The purple section, UKG considers activities module. And so that's where all of the actual project charging is going to happen. So that's kind of the difference between the blue side and the purple side, and we'll get into more details later on. Next, I have an example of a salaried exempt time card. And as the corporate one we saw, all of the days of the week were vertical, these ones are horizontal across the top. One of the main differences between today's world and central and dimensions is it only shows 1 week at a time. Even if we're on current pay period, previous pay period, it's only showing 1 week, and that's to give us more space for project charging. So you can have even more projects on here, and it's easier to read than in central where it gets really small. You will have these little toggles here on the left to just go to the previous week and next week. And so that will still show you the full pay period. It's just that one little extra step there. I think it's a little bit more difficult to see the difference between timekeeping and activities on the salaried exempt card, but probably not coming through too well with my shared screen. But this line here is purple compared to the line up here, which is blue. And so it kind of matches the same. Blue is considered time card, purple is considered activities. And that's, again, all of the project charging will show up down there. So now if we walk through some of the steps, I'm going to start with corporate hourly. A big difference from today's world is corporate hourly employees have to punch in the morning and punch out in the evening. So different from in today's world where they can just type in, oh, I came in at 8:05 today. We'll have to actually punch in. There's two ways of doing this. As Dottie showed earlier, when you log into the system, your timekeeping dashboard has a bunch of convenient tiles to do anything you need. And the corporate hourly will have one right there to punch. So all they have to do is punch in, and then before they log off for the evening, punch out. They also have an option to use the time clocks. This isn't used as often with corporate hourly, but they do have the option to use it. The only thing I will say with that is since salary corporate hourly start in the new system 1 week before production, we can't have dual time clocks going on at the same time. So just for that very first week, we ask that corporate hourly do not use the time clock, and that's just because their punches will go to central instead of to dimensions. But it should be pretty easy. The difference is also the employee cannot change their punches like they can in central today. So if an employee misses their punch, you will have to contact your supervisor and let them know, and your supervisor can go in and easily add that punch back in for you. You just can't do it yourself, which is a little bit different from today's world. We have in here a little reminder that a 30-minute lunch break is deducted each day, assuming that's what you take. And if that's different, you can notify your supervisor and they can remove it for you. For the salary exempt employees, your time card is going to be populated from schedule every pay period. So for a lot of us on the call, that's nothing new. Most of us are scheduled, this example, 7 to 3 p.m. So it's just going to populate 8 hours a day for all of these salaried employees. It's a little bit different for people that might be at Vigor works, especially that project charge a lot. In Central, your time card is just completely empty until you go in and add in all of your project charging. In Dimensions, you will have hours populated on your time card, and then you can go in and add the project numbers, and if you work different hours, you can make those adjustments as well. And how you get to your time card is the tile on your dashboard. You can just click My Time Card, and it will take you right there. If you happen to be somewhere else, you can always go into the menu and get to time card, but it's just as easy to go to the home page and just click on My Time Card. So I know Dottie kind of mentioned this earlier today, but the expectation is to look at time cards on a daily basis, especially those that project charge, just because all of these reports get sent out to the business and are used for decision making. External auditors require all daily hours to be accounted for, and all employees, including production, now have visibility to the time card via the time clock or mobile devices. And so if you have to put in project charges for your employee, they can see that as well. There is a time card, the time card tile on your dashboard will show you if you have any exceptions. The exceptions are pretty similar to the ones you see in Central today. You know, maybe a red box if you're a missed punch. You'll see that same red box in UKG Dimensions. And if you just kind of hover over it, it will tell you what the error is when you're on the time clock or on the time card. So that's kind of nice too. But they all have different icons or colors depending on the exception. And if you do have any exceptions, you should try to review and correct these immediately, just so you don't have to try to remember if you had a missed punch, oh, what time did I actually come in that day? You're going to know a lot more that day than trying to remember a week later. And just a little note in here that avoiding exceptions should be your goal. I think we all know that, and we all want to have perfect time cards. Now I'm going to go into a little bit about charging the projects, because that's the only thing that is kind of different from today's world. Here we have the chart here just showing again company and what their number is. So all of our project numbers, as we know, start with the first 2 digits of your company. And we just want to put a reminder in here that you can only project charge to projects within your own company. So if you're at Vigor Industrial, I can't charge a project number starting with a 30. Also says in here, both corporate hourly and salary can charge more than 8 hours a day to a project, but you should never charge more time to a project than you worked in the day. And that kind of comes back to the separation between the blue columns and the purple columns. We just need those hours to match up, and it will show you if you have a variance. So here, if I start with a corporate hourly, we can see that they have the blue columns and the purple columns. If you ever go into your time card and you don't see those purple columns, there's a little button at the top that's going to say Show Activities. I have a screenshot of it later, so I'll point it out again. But you can just click on that, and then it will populate those columns. So if you had your time in and you wanted to add a project number, you would just click the plus mark next to whichever day you're working on, so in this case, Tuesday. And on that new row, you're going to go over to where those purple columns start and right-click and click Manage Activities. And so then it kind of walks you through the steps. So from here, you can search for project numbers. You'd hit Select Activity. It's going to search here. I think I have more on the next page. Once you select one, it will prompt you for how many hours did you work on that project, and then you can hit Apply. And I know that seems like a lot of steps, but if you're using Google Chrome, it also does remember the last few projects that you've put in. So if you only charge to just one project or even for the week, it will then be remembered in there and you won't have to go through all of the steps each time. You can just go straight onto your time card, click here, and you should have a drop down of a few options and then put in the hours. So now I'm going to hop over to Salaried Exempt. Here's the example of the hide activity. So if you didn't see the purple column, it would say Show Activities, and it switches to Hide Activities once it is available, so you can take it on and off. So similar, since we're on the salary card, we'd be looking for that purple line. And if you don't see the purple line, you can hit Show Activities. If you have the purple line and for some reason you don't want to see it, you can just hide activities. Maybe you never project charge, so you don't even want to see it. You can just hide it and not worry about it. So from here, you're going to go to the top and click Add Activity, and it's going to bring up that same flyout menu we just saw for corporate hourly. You can search for a project number, use the little arrows here to just drill down. It starts, project number is going to be that first screen, activity, second screen. You could drill down more on some projects if you needed, especially in the production world. It will get down to site, craft, all of those things that might need to change. If you don't know your full project number, you can use the asterisk similar to today's world, and that's just a wild card to help you search for different things. So once you have the project number and you hit Apply, it's going to add it to the time card. Right down here, you can see it's under the purple line, so it's now in Activities, and you can put your hours in for the day. You'll notice here, it is just one line, so if you worked on that same project all week, you could put 2 hours on Monday, 2 hours Tuesday, 6 Wednesday, and go all the way through. Again, this shows only 1 week at a time. However, this does stay there for the pay period. So if you went up and hit Next to look at the next week, that project number is still going to be there. So you don't have to go in and add it again. You can just put in the time you worked on it. And then make sure you hit Save in the top right. So this is kind of what we were saying earlier, which is going to be a little bit different from Central. Since your time card is populated from schedule, most people that's going to be 8 hours a day. But say you worked 10 hours one day and it has to go to a project. So all you can do is just change this 8 that's going to be here. If it's in purple, that means it was auto-populated. And you can just click right in there and change it to 8, or change it to 10. And then, you know, put 10 hours to your project that you're charging. So it is one extra step from today's world, but I think for majority of the time, it's going to be a better step to have it there because you won't have to put in those times that you worked. So this is also just showing you that, you know, we put 10 hours on that day and they were only scheduled 8. So it's putting 2 hours to SE overtime it does this in Central too. So it's just a matter of if you've seen it before, you have to go down to the totals or the activity summary to see that. But it's the same as in Central. So we're just kind of calling it out that you don't have to put in SE overtime on the time card. It just automatically says if you worked over your scheduled hours, it's going to put it to SE overtime. So I'm just going to go through these tabs real quick down here. So again, if you're looking at your time card, we're showing here the activity summary. And so that will show all of the project charges that you charge for the pay period and your hours that are going to them. You can change it from all, that's the full pay period, or you can look at it a daily kind of standard and go to daily and then you just click on the different days of the week and it will show you what you charge that actual day. If I just kind of read through these real quick, the first one is accruals. That's going to show you your PTO balance, your sick balance, any of those accruals you might have. Totals, that's going to show you your total time worked. So that's kind of going from those blue columns of your time card, and it will show you what you actually worked versus the activity summary is what you worked on. Historical corrections, we all know we're trying to limit historical corrections. They all have to be approved to go through, but if you were to have any, this tab would be filled out. Different from in Central, the tab only shows up when they apply to you. This always has the tabs, but there will only be data in it when it applies to you. And then the audits is if you want to see what changes were made to your time card, it will say who made them and what was made. So now we're going to get into time off requests.
I have a quick question before we
Yeah.
move on. If we can go back to the last slide real quick. I'm just curious, do we need to, it's looking like what we're showing here, we don't necessarily need to charge all 8 hours, for example, to particular projects. If there's any just like admin tasks or whatever, it just kind of goes in that idle bucket. Is that correct?
Yes, great question. So everyone will have an idle bucket, even if you don't project charge. And the idle is really just the overhead number. So, we can see in here, that was a great question to ask. The activity name is called idle. If we hop over to this labor category, it will show you the exact project number that it's going to. And that is your default overhead that's set up at your employee record. So you're exactly right. Just like you said, if you only worked 8 hours on, or 7 hours on a project and did an hour of administrative tasks that should just go to your overhead, you can leave it as idle, and that's perfectly fine.
All right, cool. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So, sorry, so are you saying the idle just automatically populates the difference between what you charge to a project specific and then the total that you normally would work?
Yeah, so the idle is going to be default from the schedule. So like we said that all all salaried employees are going to be defaulted with hours from their schedule. So if you think of it as all of those hours start in idle. And then if you project charge, you're removing it out of idle. So all of your time defaults to your overhead, and then you're kind of removing the hours that you worked on a separate project. So if you go into your time card, haven't made any changes, you'll show 8 hours for the day, and all 8 hours are going to idle, which is your overhead. And then from there, you can add different projects and say, I worked 4 hours on project A. That will reduce your idle by 4 hours automatically.
Sorry, you said it will reduce it automatically?
Yes, it will.
And I'll just jump in and say, I know this is a lot and not everybody project charges. So thanks for hanging with us. But keep in mind that, you know, these slides, we can go through them pretty quickly and they're always there as a replay or to look at them again. Once you get your hands in the system, it's always so much easier to see how it works on the screen. I know it's a little more difficult with the PowerPoint. So thanks for hanging in there with us.
Yep. And remember, this will be available to everybody on this call December 20th, Monday the 20th. So it's really just around the corner for you. And Monday the 20th, you will all need to know how to do this. So the first day you get access is the first day you're going to need to know how to do this. So the slide decks with all these pictures, those are available online. This video will be available for replay later on. So I wish we could get it for you sooner, but that's the best we could do. Thanks.
Will the new system transfer over if you've been charging primarily to one job, will the new system pull the information from the old one, or do you have to find the task again?
You will have to go in and find that project number for the first time, because we're not bringing over the history, so I don't think it will have that search history in there.
If we're scheduled for vacation during this launch window, does that information automatically get ported over?
Yes, the PTO should be coming over. We'll be doing a load closer to go live. I know there's still some work on pulling all of those future dated PTO requests, but the plan is that all of those are going to come over into the system and you won't have to go in and make them again. So we will definitely be monitoring those, especially if you're off on the 20th, that first week. We'll definitely make sure that those are matching up between the systems.
If there's a change in your schedule, like for instance, if instead of working 7 a.m. to 3, you would change to, say, 8 to 4, is that something your supervisor has to change, or are you allowed to make that adjustment?
Yeah, great question. That is something your supervisor will have to change. And so that is also going to be a new task for supervisors. So we'll get more into that in tomorrow and Friday sessions, but they will be tasked with making sure the schedules are up to date, which for majority of the salary corporate hourly population, that means setting it up one time and never having to change it. But if you do have an employee that changes their schedule, then their supervisor will have to update it to reflect the same working hours.
Excuse me, I'm Vivian. I was just wondering if we have, so everything usually gets charged to my idle, as you're saying, but if I have overtime, how do I charge that? Because I charge that to the projects, the overtime.
Then you would be able to put in, so if you had 8 hours to your idle time, let me go back a couple slides here.
Sorry about that.
Then from here, you should be able to just go in and change your 8 hours to, let's say, 10. And then down here where they put all 10 hours to a project, you can put just 2 hours to a project.
Gotcha. Okay.
And
Okay.
so the other 8 would all go to idle.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Great questions. Any other
Kaylee,
questions
do these numbers have to match the 10 and the 10? And the 8,
Yes.
do they always have to be the same?
Yes, these always have to be the same. The screenshot's not showing, but there is another field here that's variance. So it will show you if there's a variance between them. It won't stop you. So it's something that you do just kind of have to look at yourself. And we want these numbers to always match, just because the kind of difference between the timekeeping section, the blue, those are what go to payroll for processing. And then the purple is what goes to IFS for project charging. And so we just need them to be in sync because we want all of our systems to be matching.
Hey, Kaylee, we have
I have a
time check.
question.
We've got about 20 more slides to go and not a whole lot more time. I mean, I don't want to cut off the questions,
Okay.
but maybe we could do them in the chat window and we can get back to you individually, folks, after the call. I want to make sure we have time to get through most of the material.
Yeah, and I do think the other slides will go fairly quick.
Okay. Just want to make sure
but I
we keep
definitely
people on the
appreciate that.
schedule. Thanks. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Becky, I heard you say you had a question, though, if you want to ask it.
Well, I was just wondering about corporate hourly lunches. They're going to auto deduct 30 minutes, but what if your employee takes an hour? Do they have to punch out, punch in for their hour lunch?
I think we could adjust the lunch for that one. We'll probably go into that a little bit more tomorrow and Thursday, so I will make sure to have an answer for that, because I don't want to tell you the wrong thing right now. I've heard a lot more about, removing a lunch, but I'm assuming we can adjust the lunch as well.
Great.
So I will write that down. Don't let me forget if you join tomorrow. All right, well, I'll go ahead and move on. If other questions pop in your head, please let me know. And if we have time at the end, like I said, I think some of these slides should go a little quicker. Feel free to ask it or email me and I can get you some answers as well.
Yeah, or you can send your questions to the Vigor at work at vigor.net and we'll get those questions answered right away. If you have the question, others will have the question. We'll get those shared and publicized. Okay. Thanks, everybody.
Perfect. Thank you. So now we're going to go over time off requests. So a few reminders here. Time off requests should be submitted ahead of time when they're able to. Obviously, we know we have a PTO plan. You might not have sick time scheduled in advance, but any of the time off that you can schedule in advance should be scheduled in advance. You can request time off in days or hours. I know in Central we have some difficulty when we do a half day. It sometimes doesn't like it and puts in a full day on the time card. That's a lot better in the new system. So if you say you're only taking 4 hours of PTO, it will actually put 4 hours of PTO on your time card. You'll get an error message if you try to put too much time out, like on PTO that you don't have. And when your time off is approved, timekeeping will automatically put it on your time card, just like today. And then we do have a note that requests can be made for past dates as well as future dates, and that's kind of to go with those unplanned sick days or anything, any out of office absences in current pay period. But once the pay period is closed, you can no longer put a time in request backdating it to a prior pay period. And that's just because we've already processed payroll. And that's kind of where those historical corrections then come in. And if you should have had PTO and your time card was empty or something, we can get those paid for you. So here, I kind of went over this earlier, but if you wanted to see where your accruals are, you can go to your time card, again, from the tile on your dashboard. And if you go to that accrual tab, you can see that this person has 128 hours of PTO and 100 hours of sick hours. So I kind of like starting with that so you know exactly how much you have to request off. Once you're on your home page again on your dashboard, you have a My Time Off tile, which is really convenient. Right there, you can select if you're picking PTO or sick pay. If you don't have sick pay hours, I don't think that option will show up for you because there's only a few that have it, so most people are on a PTO plan. From here, you can put in the dates you need and just hit submit right there. There's also some options if you do this advanced options. I like the advanced options even if I'm not changing the hours because then it pulls up this calendar view, and I think it's really convenient because it has these flags on here that are company paid holidays. And so it's really easy. You just click the days in here and it will highlight them. So say maybe you're taking September 1st, 2nd, 22nd, 24th. You could put all of those in the same request if you want to. You just click on them and then hit apply. Click on it again if you click on a day that you didn't want to take, and it will take it off. After you hit apply, it will have one extra step, and this is where you can say if you want to take a full day or maybe you want to take a partial day. You have to put it in hours, but you know, if you're taking 3 hours, you put noon to 3, and it's going to apply 3 hours to your time card. From here, if you hit review, it will just kind of pop up what you picked. Oh, look, Friday, 9/10 from 12 to noon. And then if you want to put a comment in, you can put a comment in and hit submit. Also, there's a note here. If you got this far and you're like, oh no, I put in the wrong date, you can either go in here and edit it, or you can cancel it right here. And so, easy spot to just cancel it. But now we want to check the status of our time off request. Say we put in a request and we don't know if our supervisor has approved it or not. There's a notification tile on your dashboard, and in here it has all of your requests. So if you just click on it, it will take you to this screen and you can see exactly where they're at if you click on the different ones. Over here, we can see that this one was still in submitted status on the right. So once it's approved, it will be green and say approved. If it was denied, it will probably say denied. But right now we can see that it's submitted. Another option to get there, if you didn't want to use your tile on your dashboard, is up here. You'll, in the top right of your screen, you'll have a little bell icon, and that takes you to the control center. And the control center is just exactly where we just were. It's just a different way of getting to it. And so from here, you could scroll down and go to just your request or anything. So same exact data, just two different ways to get to it. Once it is approved, you can see up here that it shows approved, and you can see that it's on your time card. Once it is approved, your schedule tile on your dashboard will show the current week, and it will show when that PTO is coming up. If you want, you can pick on any of these days, and it will open up a giant calendar, and you can kind of scroll through and see any requests that you have out there. So similar to how we were reviewing to see if it was approved or not, we can go in and cancel the request just as easily. So once you get into your control center, either through the notification tile on your dashboard or the control center bell icon, you can just click on it. And from here, there's a button in the top right that you can cancel your request. It will ask like, oh, are you sure you want to cancel this request? Hit yes, and then it will just go through automatically. So that's all of the PTO requests. I know we have that in Central in today's world too, so I don't think any of it's too mind-boggling, but definitely looks a bit different. And I think it's nicer because we can actually see when those are pending. It's hard to see in Central if your supervisor approved or denied it later on. So now I'm just going to go through a couple other HR features real quick, which I will say I am not the expert on these topics, so I will go through of where to find the data, but there's definitely a lot more training on Voyager on the Vigor at Work homepage that will have more details if you need it. So here, if you want to look at HR documents, you have to get to your HCM dashboard, which there's two ways of doing that. Option one, you can go to your menu and then click HCM dashboard and go to home. If you're like, that was way too many clicks, you can just go from your tile on your dashboard and then open up your HCM dashboard, which I know is kind of a confusing sentence, but if you're on your timekeeping dashboard, you can open up your HCM dashboard right from there, which a lot of this is what Dottie went over too. This is where you can see everything. So right where Dottie was this morning showing all of your personal information, right underneath it is the documents. And so from here, you can see if you wanted to get the employee handbook or the PTO policy, drug and alcohol policy, you can go to right here, see them all, this little dot, dot, dot will give you the option to download the file. And then you can just download it and save it. I know Chrome is new for a lot of us. When you download files, they pop up on the bottom of the screen. So just look for them there if you think you downloaded something but you don't see it pop up. A nice reminder here that a lot of these documents are large. This employee handbook is 153 pages. So just make sure if you're trying to print them that you actually need to print it, or you might be waiting for a long time. And especially if you're at home, probably going to run out of ink because I feel like home printers always run out of ink. So just kind of keep in mind what you're printing. The last thing I'm going to go over is training and certifications. Again, if you're starting, every time you log in, you start on the timekeeping dashboard. So that's kind of why we keep starting there. That's where you're going to log into. So from there, you want to get back over to HCM. And then from here, there's a My Performance tab. And once you click on it, it pops up, what did you want to do here? And you can go to training and certifications. From here, it just took you to My Career Training and Certifications. You can also get to this by drilling down in the menu, but a lot of those features, like Dottie said, that Paul put together are so helpful to have there as shortcuts to everything you need. So from here, you can click on these ... to see the history of the class and anything that you might need to see with training and certifications. Like I said, I'm not too much of an expert on this, so there's definitely more data if you need it. Also, what's cool though, if you have some training certifications that are expiring, you get a notification 31 days prior to the expiration date. So that notification will show up in your control center, and you'll also get an email. The email will only be one time, but I think the control center will stay there until it's expired. This is just another example of the notification in your control center. And here's an example of the email. Your training is expiring. Here's a notice. And that's really everything. Like we said, there will be other courses, and not all training course information is in Vigor at Work. We still do have Precipio for all of those other kind of trainings. And that's everything. I know I went a minute over. I tried to speed up there at the end, so hopefully I didn't go too quick through it.
No, you and Dottie did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, if any questions come up, like Paul said, send them to the email. Paul, can you repeat it one more time so I don't say the wrong thing?
I'll put it in the chat window. It's vigor@work@vigor.net. And that's our Vigor at Work education. Alias will get those questions answered for you. And yeah, please let us know. Thank you all for joining in. I'll have a link to this later today or tomorrow, so you can replay this. And again, for any of your colleagues or coworkers who weren't able to attend because they were on PTO or out sick, there is one more session. This will be repeated on Monday next at the same hour. And then this will be recorded, so you can refer to it later on. Thank you all for attending.
Thanks, Paul.
108 people today. Thank you all for joining. This is great. Thanks for your interest. And again, Monday the 20th. Let's make it real. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Dottie. Thanks, Kaylee.
Thanks, Kaylee, Dottie.
Great job.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.